Welcome back to Creative Perspectives. I'm Brandy. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to put my Bible verse in my character graphics later, but I want to delve into today's topic, which is understanding what verbal abuse looks like. Okay? Oh no! Some people have no idea how to handle abuse because if they grew up in a home that was abusive, then guess what? They may repeat some of those patterns and not really understand the extent of it, because if you're raised in a certain environment over the course of 17, 18 years and you watch it over and over again, then sometimes you could take on those habits, what you've seen practiced at home, and sometimes you may not realize it until you get into a relationship yourself. So I have a book. It's by Patricia Evans. It's called The Verbally Abusive Relationship, and how to recognize it and how to respond to it. So I want to show that to you so you could possibly go out and get this book. It's only $10.95. Yeah. So it's a great book that gives you tools on what it is, what it looks like, because you do have some people where they want to be better. And I do realize that not everybody can afford a counselor. What? And so sometimes grabbing you a book that's $10.95 is cheaper than paying hundreds of dollars to a psychologist, because everybody's budget is different. Not everybody has a lot of money to be doing weekly, bi-weekly counseling sessions and paying a lot for those sessions. So sometimes you have to take alternative routes, okay? Or you can do both. You can get counseling if you can afford it, plus read some books. Plus you could watch different doctors and actual licensed professionals who have studied the subject extensively. I'm a big fan of people that graduate from these things, because their area of study, they focus on it for many years versus 2 seconds, and then they come up with something. Like me, I like to read. So anyway, let's get to it. So having a verbally abusive relationship, it may not come off abusive at first, right? Like, especially if you have, and we hear this term often now, and it's called narcissist. Sometimes narcissists, they don't come in, like pit bulls, waging war on you. A lot of times they like to get to know you first, then they start infiltrating your life with poison and venom and win at all costs type of spirits, and they just bring way too much. It's like undeveloped emotional issues that they have. So it's like a form of being extremely immature, extremely insecure, and just wanting to control and doing whatever it takes to stay in control, and antagonizing the people they hurt, or some people say victim, but they antagonize the person. But first they're nice, they're charming, they're wonderful. I was married to one, so I understand it. Brought more to the table than I could handle, to include post-divorce rape. So it's a lot that I had to undergo. Some people smile in your face, but they're doing a lot of details behind your back, the passive aggressive behaviors, the vindictive nature that they may embody, and then I was never called ugly or anything, but sometimes the verbal abuse can be in the way they look at you. So after you have a kid, they give you that ugly look, like, you ugly girl, I ain't trying to touch you, stuff like that. So anyway, but let's get back to verbally abusive relationship. So in her book, she does outline your recovery processing, okay? First things first, you always want to recognize the abuse. I mean, if you don't know what the abuse looks like, there's no way you can even tackle the issue, unless somebody else brings it on. But I find it that sometimes, and I'll just use the word victims, they defend the person who's causing them all that trauma when somebody else comes in to help them. So that's why I'm a big fan of everybody has their own walk. Some people you have to leave them where they are. You can still express maybe how you would handle it without trying to inflict it or overreach into their plans of how they plan to handle it. But verbal abuse can be just straight out words of discouragement, words that are designed to harm you, or just using some of the things that you've discussed with them and throwing it in your face. Or like, or they might throw that issue or trauma that you went through back in your face, making it seem like it's all your fault. It's really a nasty, nasty, nasty thing. But the devil, we talked about the devil, how he attaches himself to these individuals, but God gave us all free will, so it's our decision on what comes out of our mouth. It's not the devil doing it, it's us doing it. But it's sometimes based on our choices and how we believe, the attachment is stuck to that individual, and that some people don't care what they say and how they say it and how it harms other people, But being verbally abusive is definitely something that's hard. The way that if you don't know how to recognize it, if you're not getting a direct insult or a direct direct venom is not spewing out of their mouth or out of that tongue of theirs that you just want to chop off. Joking, but not joking. But like, let's say my main thing is, if you don't know how to recognize that's coming, think of it this way. Is it something they would tell their boss? If it's something that they'll never say to their own boss that holds, their income, it shouldn't be said. It should not be said. So some people, they go slightly in. Like I gave an example in my previous video about airstriking, how it's like little criticisms, and how they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger if you don't chop the snake, the snake's head off from the very beginning. Then you're inviting that in, and then when it increases and it gets worse and worse, the airstrikes are coming and it's going to tear up your village. So that's the metaphor I chose to use in that one. But it's called airstrike, and there's different ways people airstrike you. So you can go back and watch that video. But with this video, it's the same concept. A verbally abusive person, they always have something negative to say, and it doesn't matter if it's out of jealousy. It doesn't matter if they're just a nasty, mean person. One thing I don't like, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, is some people, if they have a relative or a friend or somebody that's been nasty for a very long time, they try to give them a pass on their nastiness instead of just saying, hey, that's not okay, or addressing them, to make them more aware. To me, if you don't tell people, for an extended period of time, what their behavior looks like through your lens, then they might think it's acceptable to keep doing that. So to me, in order to help make people better, sometimes you may have to mention the behavior to them and see how they respond to it. And then if they respond well, okay, you got something. If they don't, then you have to make a decision on whether or not you want them to stay in or out of your life, or whether they're worthy of being around you, because you have to think of yourself as a valuable person. Okay? If you don't value yourself and you don't think of yourself as a valuable person, you can't expect others to really do much for you. So my thing is, we want to make changes. We want to become better. We want to forgive. We want to heal. We want to go through all of those stages to start aligning our heart space with, we want to align our heart space and our mind space together and bring them in union. They're a team. When you look at your body, you should think of it as a team. My mind is a team with my heart, because if I'm messed up here, 9 times out of 10, I'll be messed up here, and then spiritually I might be, feeling emotionally corrupt or spiritually corrupt in that moment. So we want everything to start aligning with each other so that we can bring everything into balance. We can't do that if you're in a situation where there's slow verbal abuse. Another form of verbal abuse, which also falls into a form of narcissism or a narcissistic trait, is a person that dismisses, that's completely always dismissive of your pain or of your discomforts that you disclose to them. If they don't care about you enough to even want to address, your issues, then that's another way of introducing abuse into it, because they could wear you down, like you're just dramatic, or something like that. Now me, I'm one of those where I like to just like I'm talking to you, I like to talk to another individual, whether they've harmed me or not, the same way, because I'm a big fan of you treat your enemies just as friendly as you treat the people that you love the most, because love really does heal all. Okay, you never know if some of these verbally abusive people have been harmed in their life, and the harm that was inflicted on them, now they're out here doing this. Verbal abuse, trying to assassinate everybody else that's around them because they just haven't handled their own triggers and their own issues that went unhealed for so long. And we definitely don't want people resorting to drugs, alcohol, or pill popping, or any form of assault, or any of that, because of their untapped emotions that they need to get out and heal and learn to feel, because you could feel bad. Like I remember I talked about my assault before, and when I did, it was one was a rape and then one was an actual sexual assault. But in both cases, it does a lot of traumatic, it causes a lot of trauma to you, to where if you're not careful, I could have easily been in a place of thinking the world is so bad and why is me, and and just going through that stage, but processing the emotions and learning how to get that out of me, to manage it and understand that's 2 people out of billions of people. You get what I'm saying? So the world is not that bad. There's a lot of people that show love everywhere, but we're flooded with the media, we're flooded with a whole bunch of channels where they make more money on trauma than they do on exposing all the brilliance of this world and a lot of brilliant situations. So, if you don't handle your trauma will handle you. And it will come out in so many different ways. So when we're talking about verbal abuse, that's coming from a person that has some form of trauma that they had to deal with, whether they're extremely insecure, whether they are just going through something immediately impacting their lives, and that's the only way they know how to get it out, because somebody didn't explain emotions when they were younger and help them to uncover what those emotions mean, and kind of guide them in steps where there's healthier ways to handle those emotions and give them the right tools. Not everybody has the same parents that even understand that, especially like if you're about, my age range, like 50, I'm 41. So people that are older, it was a different time and era, where it was like, do what we say and that's it, and I even came under like that dictator I can't even speak this early. Mind you, I got up at 2 o'clock. I filmed the I Said No, the sabotaged series for children, and then now I switched over my clothes, and then now I'm doing this. So I've been up since like 2 o'clock. This was another series that was inspired in my sleep by God. I always say God, but I pray, and then I allow God to bring what's necessary to me. And this was the other series, was verbal abuse, and going through that. Another one is somebody that nitpicks you to death. That's another form of verbal abuse, and it falls close to criticism. You know, somebody nitpicks you. You know, oh, your hair, your clothes, your mom. You know, just anything that nitpicks you, that keeps you from feeling good about who you are, or where you plan to take your life, or something that acts as a distraction. You know, when we talk about God and the devil, it's always about distractions to keep you from becoming exactly what God designed you to be, or who He wants you to be in life. I met, you know, a lady, I'm not going to say any names, you know, back in 2000, after we became phone friends. It was more like phone friends because I moved from LA and moved to Florida. So during the time of when I had time, you know, we kind of 3 years stayed in touch with each other, but just by phone. So I didn't really know her, but it was more like, you know what you hear, you know. It was a picture that was painted. But she undergone some serious trauma, and in order to feel protected, as far as what I learned by just watching her, was she resorted to verbally abusing people, and that was her safety net. So like was not the type that could take constructive criticism or any form of criticism. It was more like, you know, I'm ready to bite you, you know, if you say anything. And then the bite would be so strong, it's like you wish your ears would fall off. And you don't want them back after they fall off. So we want to make sure we start handling, you know, our interactions. You know, if you are with someone, they don't know verbal abuse, don't go in with them. You know, another saying my dad used to say is never argue with a fool. Because if you argue with a fool, it'll be two fools arguing, you know. So, you know, just some things are best to not engage, because some people, they like to argue. That's their thing. And they like to be verbally assassinate others, and you know, decapitate their partners, decapitate their partners too, like cut them off at the, you know. So these are issues, you know, that we need to become more aware of, or you can make them aware of, and hopefully you can get them to get themselves some help. Okay. Verbal abuse also falls into controlling, you know, being in control. Somebody that wants to verbally assassinate you so much to where you'll just give in to their demands. So you got to be careful with that as well. You definitely don't want a partner that's going to, double down on taking you down. You know, we want you to have a strong presence in your life. So I'm going to stop there because I'm really starting to get tired. I got up so early, I didn't know I did. Okay, so I'm going to read only one page. I was looking for a really good page while I was talking. I'm going to read page 85. It's characteristics and categories of verbal abuse. So the categories of verbal abuse is withholding, countering, discounting. Verbal abuse disguised as jokes. So sometimes people joke and throw a negative message in, or you know, throw a dagger at you in their jokes to make it seem like it's, you know, it's all good. I was just joking, and they were not. Blocking and diverting. Okay, we've all, well, not all, but some people actually encounter really good people all the time, but every once in a while you get that sideways person that goes left, you know. But accusing and blaming, so it's everybody else's fault but not their fault. They take zero accountability with all of their actions, and it's always your fault. You're responsible for their happiness, their this and their that, when you are not. It's themselves. If they look in the mirror, there's changes that they possibly need to make, not you. You are not responsible for another individual. I always say that. You know, but you have some individuals where they're really immature, so they are not in that state of understanding that you are in control of where your life is going, how it's currently going, and there are lots of tools out there to help you get out of that. Okay. judging and criticizing. They're constantly judging and criticizing and turn it into a love. Like, I love you. I wouldn't tell you if I didn't love you. That's a lie before the pit of hell. Because like I said, if a person is into you and they love you and they have respect for you, they're going to talk to you no different than what they would say to their boss, period. Or if they own their own company, they're going to talk to you like an investor. If an investor's coming in to invest, are you going to start being crazy and talking crazy in front of that investor? No, you're going to be on your best behavior, or you're going to show respect. It's just basic respect, and you're not going to try to control the situation. You're just going to make your business pitch, and that's it. Trivializing everything, undermining you, okay? Threatening you, name calling, forgetting, like everything you want, they always forget. Oh, I forgot. No, they didn't. Because we all have cell phones. Technology is so robust now to where you can text things. I'm constantly trying to text memory stuff to myself. Ordering, they want to be the boss. Huh? Do as I say, child. No. They're treating a grown up. Do as I say, child. You're grown. You're both grown. Same age, possibly. You're not a child. You're a grown up with your own views, your own ideas, your own way of thinking. It should be respected. I would like to think that. Denial. I remember a person who caused so much harm. It's only one person I had to really in my older age, it was one person. And when I was younger, it was one person. So two knuckleheads. But denial was a major issue, And denial of their own behavior, to where one thing they're trying to do is, I'm trying to give you a good example. Let's see. Oh, creating all this hell, and then try to say y'all best friends. I almost say he was like, oh, we were best friends. I was like, what did they say? What did they say after busting up my house, busting up my car, sexually assaulting me, using the child to get him in access, sending dead flowers to the house, messing up the car, not showing up to their kid's birthday party when they were clearly at a hotel that was nearby and it was a no-call, no-show on the actual day of the birthday. We're best friends? But cheating, starting a business 2 years before we were divorced and creating so much hell and havoc around the house? What? And then sending a I love you for my father's funeral? What? People are crazy, I tell you. And then abusive anger, okay? Abusive anger, okay? That could either be physical or just something that will make you fear, or anxious or intimidated, okay? Jesus. Wow. This is a good one I found on page 111. Trying to get your partner to adapt to the abuse. What? So anyway, I'm gonna stop it there. But anyway, when we're talking about verbal abuse, obviously there's healing that needs to be involved, maybe even for both parties. Unlocking the emotions. I like the team method of trying to explain something to your partner, like this is the way I feel when you did this action. This is how I feel about it, and then allowing them to be responsible for their response. Okay, definitely bringing forth forgiveness, making the decision. Hey, Do I stay or do I go? Having an excellent support team. Remember, a support team is not a team that just agrees with everything you say and do. A real team gives you constructive criticism, and those are people that are very few, to find. Sometimes you could be being advised wrong by people that you love because they might be looking at it through your lens, and then sometimes people have their own ulterior motives for why they don't want the situation to work out. So you also have to be careful of that and watch out for that. For instance, you might have a friend always trying to be in your business and all this, and you may not even be talking about your man, but you're always trying to bring him up and try to figure out every single detail about your life. And then as soon as you guys have a pitfall, then or something going on, even if you have your first spat, and like say if you had a man that's always been respectful and he had a bad day and he went sideways once and that was it, but y'all been together 18 years, you share that, and then now it's like he's like really bad, like you need to get rid of him. That's not that type of friend either. You gotta be careful of who you disclose to and who you actually call a friend. That could save you a lot in the long run, because while they're tearing your relationship down, they could be coming after the person you like too. You know what I'm saying? You don't know. We living in the day and time where things are crazy, and that's, I'm promoting, like, let's get with God at this point. You see all the bad stuff going on, why not try him? Why not try him? Tried everything else, why not try him? Yeah, I don't think God's looking for perfection. I believe he's looking for us to do something to help other people and to be the best versions of ourselves to be able to do it effectively. That's what I think God's looking for. That's just my opinion. Remember, somebody else could go in the Bible and be like, you know what, he's looking for this and 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 this, and then we hear a lot. Okay, I'm going to read only one more passage. It's the last paragraph on page 129. Okay, this is what she states. Knowing that what the abuser has told you about yourself is not at all true, but is in fact abusive, can help you to recognize how your mate has attempted to define you in terms of his reality. So remember, we all have different perspectives, different realities. You don't let anybody define you. You have to know who you are, okay? Some people could wear you down with their way of trying to make you think and redefining yourself. That's why your mind, you have to protect your mind and your heart at all times and at all costs. Because once the devil has both, or one, especially your mind, then pretty much it's you're going to be praying your way out of that. So one way to become more aware is to turn each accusatory, oh Jesus, okay, I'm so sorry, accusatory statement around into an I know that I am not statement. Following are some examples. I know that I'm not competitive. I know that I'm not always trying to start a fight. I know that I'm not too sensitive. I know that I'm not a bitch. I know that I'm not too selfish. I know that I'm not judgmental. I know that I'm not attacking. I know that I'm not trying to have the last word. I know that I'm not. Keep adding everything you have been told you are, because if you are with a verbal abuser, you can be certain that you are not what you've been told. Okay? So abusers, they like to define who you are. To me, that crosses into narcissism as well. But anyway, we're going to stop there. This book is amazing. One more time, The Verbally Abusive Relationship, How to Recognize It and How to Respond by Patricia Evans. It's only $10.95. I will order this if you don't know what abuse is. If you are not aware, if you want to become aware to have better relationships, this is a good book, okay? I'm going to stop there. I like to read, like I said, 3 degrees. I have 3 because I have to learn. I'm one of those, so unfortunately, but it's my brain. It just has to keep going. I don't know why, but that's the way I'm built and designed. So God bless you. I did not add any issues on verbal abuse in mine. Oh Lord. I'm trying to think of a good example. have one. Okay, so when I was in Iraq, you know, I told you one of the soldiers, I felt he was a bully, because remember, that's my perception based off of his behaviors. And I just got so mad that I went to the ice box. He was sitting on the curb. They were they were fixing I think a Humvee, and they sat, you know, they were just taking a break. And then when I walked by, I heard that word "be." So I went straight over to the ice box, which was behind the motor pool or whatever of where they were working. And you know, in Iraq it's extremely hot, so I took one of the bottles. And then you know, when I came back around the corner, I stood as close as possible, because one thing is, I'm not a good thrower, but I was strong. So anyway, I strapped my weapon to the back, and then I launched the bottle into his face, praying, you know, that somebody would get him, because I knew once I hit him, he would respond. So, you know, I launched it, it hit him, he responded, soldiers got him, and then I walked away. Okay, and then obviously they make us do parade arrests. They're trying to figure out who injured the soldier, you know, but he didn't give me up, so that was the end of that. Now, following that incident, you know, he came back a few weeks later. Now, mind you, in Iraq time, it's kind of weird, so especially when you start having sleep issues, you know, it's like you just want to go to sleep. But anyway, he came to apologize about saying that. He said, "I didn't say you were a B. I said you were acting like a B." And, you know, then, you know, I was terrified, because I was in a container, you know, working, you know, going, you know, in and out, and there's one way in, one way out. So I was like, oh my gosh, he's retribution. But Lord, I did the crime, so I got to do the time. So I was like, oh my gosh, he's about to beat me up. And then when he released it by saying, you know, Sergeant, blah, blah, I didn't call you a B. I just said you were acting like one. Then I had a moment of just disarming myself, saying, you know, telling him how I actually felt, how he handles, you know, his the soldiers that are underneath him, and just the bullying and the raging. Now I felt, because he's like an alpha male, like pure alpha, pure alpha. So sometimes they can be unreachable until you slap them. Then they're like, oh shoot, I didn't think she would ever do something like that. She's so nice. Then you got a taste of what nice looks like when we go, you know, get under our skin too much. So anyway, another guy, another soldier, another sergeant caught me, you know, and I was just walking to my room, and he said, you know, Sergeant blah. He's like, you're a B. And I was like, what the? So obviously I was about to not really rage, but so he was like, but Sergeant, you need to be happy that you're being called a B. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And why would I be, you know, happy that somebody's calling me a B and all that stuff? He was like, because what that means in males terms is you're sleeping with everybody but us, meaning like you're untouchable. And, you know, men, when they see women, you know, and obviously if you're in Iraq for, you know, a year or so, that's a long time to be away from women, your families, you know, stuff like that. Now, most men in Iraq, they behave, but then you got that small group that try to make it seem like everybody's doing what they're doing, that type of deal. But so he was like, so next time when you're called that, take it with honor. He's like, because you hustle, you work, you know, you're a hard worker, you know, stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, he gave me a different perspective of how to look at that, you know, like you're handling your business, you know, you're out there working. I was a SSA NCOIC, and we had a attached joint distribution center. So I had to be a defense contract management evaluator over like Halliburton, LSI's, KBR, you know, for only the people that was working in we only had 29 civilians working alongside with 14 soldiers that I had to be over. So I had to do everybody's evaluation. So as you can imagine, that's a lot, you know. And then I was MWR on the NWR committee. They put me on the yearbook committee, and then I had to do the newspaper, public affairs officer, so they just gave me, I was busy, but I needed to be busy because I was one of those where there's too much time in Iraq if you don't have a job. That's my dog barking. Okay, she wants me to open the door. God bless you. God smile upon you. And definitely get Patricia Evans' book. It's $10.95 if you cannot afford a counselor. Bye. God bless you. And like, share, subscribe. I'm going to get better with the content as time goes on. Mind you, I had to break some of those videos up, but it's only like a couple, you know, that where I have 11 videos, but technically if you put them all together, it's probably like 6 or 7. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming back. I hope to see you again. I will not, if I'm not inspired by God to do it, I'm not going to do it, okay? And then if I come on here, I'll tell you, okay, I was not inspired to do this, you know, but in my eyes to go the distance on these videos, I have to be